The SSATP, the Africa Transport Policy Program, is facilitating the meeting. We are providing funds to organize the meeting, working with the African Union Commission. African Union Commission has the leadership, and on the technical aspects of the meeting, and the meeting itself is organized by ECOWAS, the Economic Community of West African States. It's important to link the African countries and to facilitate trade. And trade is a source of growth. So that is going to impact on every people in Africa by facilitating the exchanges among countries. But it's also particularly important because these exchanges will be for African products. We are not talking of imports coming from the ports to the landlocked countries. We are talking about agricultural product in one country is going to another countries. So that's really something which is going to impact on everybody in Africa. The Africa Transport Policy Program sees three main challenges for Africa in the transport sector. The first one is road safety. With the economic growth, the fast economic growth, that results in growing motorization and more traffic on the roads. More traffic means more accidents. So that's the first challenge, how to reduce this impact of economic growth on the number of accidents in Africa. The second challenge is urbanization. In 2050, more than 60% of the population in Africa will be in cities. So cities already are starting to be congested. How to prevent further congestion in cities, which are going to grow very fast in the next decades. And that impacts on everybody living in Africa, but in particularly the poor people who cannot access modes of transport, and because all the roads are congested, they don't have access to public transport, and they don't have access to employment. So it's impacts on their whole life. So how to mitigate this impact of the future is the second challenge. The third challenge is trade, because people still suffer from obstacles along the roads in Africa, where you have roadblocks, you have to pay bribes, but goods are delayed in the ports, goods are delayed at borders. For somebody wanted to export a product from a country to another country, you still have obstacles at borders. So as I already said before, trade is source of growth. So if those obstacles are not removed, then you lose some percentages of growth, and that impact on everybody in the countries. Let me give you an example. If you build a road, of course, the transport costs are going to be reduced. I mean that you will pay less gas, and it will be easier to maintain the vehicle. You will spend less money on transport. Now, the idea for trucks is that if the transport costs are reduced, the tariffs are reduced, and then the users, the consumers, are going to benefit from the reduced transport cost. The problem is that very often it does not happen because you don't have enough competition among transporters, and that means that the transporters keep the benefits from improved roads and do not pass these benefits to the consumers. If you have the right policies in place, you allow the benefits to be transferred to the end users, the consumers. That's the impact of a policy, and this is something that will be required on the Trans-African highways. Road safety is a multi-sectoral effort. It involves, it's not only a transport effort. It involves education, it involves health sector, so everybody needs to work together to limit the risk of road safety. But you need also good institutions which are capable of coordinating all the parties involved in road safety. They have the mandate, they have the authority to work on road safety, and they have the funding, of course, they have the resources to work on road safety. But the last thing which is important is the leadership. A strong leadership which sends a message to everybody in the country that road safety is critical. We are working on policy improvements related to rural transport. For example, rural transport planning, but also monitoring the impact of rural transport programs. There are good examples of programs which had a huge impact in terms of facilitating access to non-agricultural employment, for example. That means it's important because when you have a food crisis, you have a bad weather, if you have a job which is not related only to agriculture, you can still get some money waiting until the crisis passes. So that to develop rural transport programs, it's important to show that they have this type of impact. We are working also on monitoring corridor performance to facilitate trade across countries, and trade again being a source of growth, in order to give to the decision makers the elements that they need to take decisions. And finally, we are also working on road safety to help create institutions for road safety in a number of countries in Africa, but working also with the African Union Commission and the UN Economic Commission for Africa to monitor the actions which are taken as part of the decade of action for road safety, which is a decade of action from 2010 to 2020, and which is a huge undertaking to reduce the impact of road safety on populations in Africa. Working with stakeholders and having this impact is critical for the success of the program. And for that, we are changing the way the program operates. And we want to increase ownership of the program by African stakeholders. We want the program to be more responsive to the demand coming from stakeholders, and also we want the program to be better anchored in Africa by relocating the team to a hub in Africa, and also working more closely with African institutions, and in particular the African Union Commission and the Conference of African Ministers of Transport, who have the political leadership in terms of transport policies for Africa.